Greetings, friends. Welcome back to the broadcast. I'm Shawn. Today, we are resuming our study in the ancient text known as Jasher or Jasher. And we're looking at chapter 4 today. Chapter 4 deals with a little bit about Methuselah, a little bit about Noah, and a little bit about Lamech. But the most interesting thing to me is about 3 verses here that deal with the same situation that happened in Genesis chapter 6. Except it gives us a little detail that I find quite interesting. And so we'll be diving into that. I'm basically going to read the 21 verses, and then we're going to go back to that and kind of talk about it. It uses, you have the book of Enoch, which calls them the Watchers. Genesis chapter 6 calls them the sons of God. And Jasher refers to them as judges and rulers. And we'll talk about that a little bit when we get to it. I'm also going to read you a little bit from a fragment from the Dead Sea Scrolls, known as the Testament of Lamech, because he has an interesting dream that's actually recorded in the book of Enoch. So we're going to read that and then talk about it, because he's really concerned that Noah might also be a descendant of one of these fallen angels or watchers. And so all very, very interesting. So with that said, let's have a look, and I pray that this morning's study will be interesting to you and a blessing as well. All right, let me start by just reading through chapter 4 from the ancient book of Jasher. Let's begin. And all the days that Enoch lived upon the earth were 365 years. And when Enoch had ascended into heaven, all the kings of the earth rose and took Methuselah his son and anointed him, and caused him to reign over them in the place of his father. And Methuselah acted uprightly in the sight of God, as his father Enoch had taught him. And he likewise during the whole of his life taught the sons of men wisdom, knowledge, and the fear of God. And he did not turn from the good way either to the right or to the left. But in the latter days of Methuselah the sons of men turned from the Lord. They corrupted the earth, they robbed and plundered each other, and they rebelled against God. And they transgressed, and they corrupted their ways, and would not hearken to the voice of Methuselah, but rebelled against him. And the Lord was exceedingly wroth against them. And the Lord continued to destroy the seed in those days, so that there was neither sowing nor reaping in the earth. For when they sowed the ground in order that they may obtain food for their support, behold, thorns and thistles were produced, which they did not sow. And still the sons of men did not turn from their evil ways, and their hands were still extended to do evil in the sight of God. And they provoked the Lord with their evil ways. And the Lord was very wroth, and he repented that he had made man. And he thought to destroy and annihilate them, and he did so. In those days, when Lamech, the son of Methuselah, was 160 years old, Seth, the son of Adam, died. And in all the days that Seth lived were 912 years, and he died. And Lamech was 180 years old when he took Ashumah, the daughter of Elisha, the son of Enoch, his uncle, and she conceived. And at that time the sons of men sowed the ground, and a little food was produced, yet the sons of men did not turn from their evil ways. And they trespassed and rebelled against God. And the wife of Lamech conceived and bare him a son at that time, at the resolution of the year. And Methuselah called his name Noah, saying, the earth was in his days at rest and free from corruption. And Lamech his father called his name Machim, saying, this one shall comfort us in our works, and miserable toil in the earth, which God hath cursed. And the child grew up and was weaned, and he went in the ways of his father Methuselah, perfect and upright with God. And all the sons of men departed from the ways of the Lord in those days, as they multiplied upon the face of the earth with sons and daughters, and they taught one another their evil practices, and they continued sinning against the Lord. And every man made unto himself a god, and they robbed and plundered every man his neighbor as well as his relative, and they corrupted the earth, and the earth was filled with violence. And their judges and rulers went to the daughters of men, and they took their wives by force from their husbands according to their choice. And the sons of men in those days took from the cattle of the earth, and the beasts of the field, and the fowls of the air, and they taught the mixture of animals of one species with another, in order therewith to provoke the Lord. And the gods saw that the whole earth, and it was corrupt, for all flesh had corrupted its ways upon the earth, all men and all animals. And the Lord said, I will blot out man that I created from the face of the earth, yea, from man to birds of the air, together with the cattle and beasts that are in the field, for I repent that I made them. And all men who walked in the ways of the Lord died in those days, before the Lord brought the evil upon man which he had declared. For this was from the Lord, that they should not see the evil which the Lord spoke concerning the sons of men. And Noah found grace in the sight of the Lord. And the Lord chose him and his children to raise up seed from them upon the face of the whole earth. All right, so there is Jasher chapter 4. We're going to focus in on verses 18. Actually, just verse 18. It's just a really long verse. All right, let's start with Genesis' account. It says, And it came to pass, when men began to multiply on the face of the earth, and daughters were born unto them, that the sons of God saw the daughters of men, that they were fair, and they took them wives which they chose. So in Genesis, it does tell us that they took them wives from whom they chose. But, one might read that and think that they just, chose a woman. That's not what Jasher says. Jasher defines it a little differently and says that they took them by force, and some of them were already married. And these fallen ones take them and produce their children with them by force. Quite a wild story. Now, one of the reasons that I've speculated that we really are living in the times of Noah is not just because of the corruption of men, right? But because of the genetic manipulation. And this is a topic that I've been talking about on this broadcast since it started 11 years ago. And that is one of the main things that jumps out to me. And you see here in the book of Jasher that it wasn't just that these fallen ones had come and they were taken wives. And we know what that produces, right? It produced the giants. But they were also, it says, and the sons of men in those days took from the cattle of the earth and the beasts of the field and the fowls of the air, and taught the mixture of animals, one species with another, in order to therewith to provoke the Lord. And the gods saw that the whole earth was corrupt, not just men but animals, right? So these are the things that really provoke God to finally bring it to an end. You have his whole creation being manipulated and perversed and profaned. That is exactly what we have going on in our day. Genetic splicing of not just animals, but all of the food supply, at least here in the West, is filled with poison and chemicals, and it's genetically modified, and all these strange diseases and weird things that we have going on. We have done the same thing. And then, of course, we're doing the weirdest things to our own bodies. It is just, frankly, what we're doing today could be recorded in a book like this, that somebody who's not living out those strange things, maybe in the future, would read and go, wow. Talk about a society that had lost its mind. Talk about a zombie apocalypse. That's really where we are here in the West. We're just so used to it that we just look the other way, or we don't spend much time thinking about it. But we have become the times of Noah, maybe worse. It's bad. I want to talk a little bit about how they're described. And here they're described as judges and rulers, which would be accurate. The Watchers were supposed to be exactly what their name suggests. They were to be watching over different districts or areas, if you will, like an angelic overseer. We see this demonstrated in the book of Daniel. So let me read to you four verses from the book of Daniel, chapter 4, just to make that point. And then I'll get to the testament of Lamech. In Daniel chapter 4, verse 13, he says, I saw in the visions of my head upon my bed, and behold, a watcher and a holy one came down from heaven. And he cried aloud, and he said, Thus, hew down the tree, and cut off its branches, and shake off its leaves, and scatter his fruit. Let the beasts get away from under it, and the fowls from his branches. Nevertheless, leave the stump of his roots in the earth, even with a band of iron and brass and tender grass of the field. And let it be wet with the dew of heaven, and let his portion be with the beasts and the grass of the earth. This is talking about the judgment that was coming upon Nebuchadnezzar for, I believe it was 7 years. Let his heart be changed from a man, and let a beast heart be given unto him, and let 7 times pass over him. Yeah, so there's the 7 years. Here's the part that's important. Verse 17. This matter is by decree of the Watchers, and the demand by the word of the holy ones. You see, these beings had a role in humanity to watch over it, to rule over it, to protect it, or whatever. You had the Watchers in Genesis chapter 6. They leave this heavenly position because they've decided they desire the women of earth, and they come down and they take these women by force. But they were rulers, they were judges, they were watchers, they were all of these things. They were sons of God. All of these titles fit. Now, because this is going on at this time, Lamech has a dream about his son that's about to be born, Noah, but he doesn't look like your everyday person, and he looks bright and almost angelic, so he's worried that his wife has had relations with one of these fallen ones. So I'm going to read to you this account that's also in the book of Enoch, of Lamech's dream, and then I'm just going to read to you. I'm not going to read all the interpretations of the dream or anything like that, but I'm going to read that, and then I'm going to read this short little conversation that he has with his wife that's also a fragment found with the Dead Sea Scrolls. So listen to this. His body was white as snow, and red as the blooming of a rose, and the hair of his head was white as wool, and his eyes were beautiful. And when he opened his eyes, they lit up the whole house like the sun, and the whole house was very bright. And when he was taken from the hands of the midwife, he opened his mouth and spoke to the Lord of righteousness. His father Lamech was afraid of him and fled, and he came to his father Methuselah, and he said unto him, I have begotten a strange son, unlike a man, but resembling the sons of the angels of heaven. And his nature is different. He is not like us, and his eyes are as the rays of the sun, and his countenance is beautiful. It seems to me that he is not sprung from me, but from the angels. And I fear that that awful thing will happen on the earth in his days. So Lamech kind of has this dream about this. And you get this sense that he kind of knows that he's living in the last days. Right? And we get that same sense as well. I'm going to read this conversation that he has with his wife here in just a second, but I want to remind you of something interesting. When we go back to the book of Jasher, God's repenting that he had made man. And he says, I will blot out man that I created from the face of the earth, yea, from man to birds of the air, together with cattle and beasts, they are in the field, for I repent that I made them. And all the men who walked in the ways of the Lord died in those days, before the Lord brought the evil upon man which he declared. When it comes to full-on destruction, mass just annihilation judgment, God's posture has always seemed to rescue the righteous in one form or another. So in Genesis 6 days, he let all those who are righteous complete their lives, and he saved Noah in an ark before he brought the full world destruction. Same thing in Sodom and Gomorrah, right? He gets Lot and his daughters out, and then fire and brimstone rain down from heaven. So this idea that God is going to protect the few who are righteous and the few who are truly committed to Him before the plagues are released on the earth in the very, very last of things is not an unreasonable belief. We'll have to see how that actually shakes out, though. All right, so I read to you the dream. Now let me read to you this short little conversation that Lamech has with his wife. It suddenly occurred to me that the conception could be from watchers, or the seed from the holy ones, or Nephilim. My mind wavered concerning the baby. Then I, Lamech, was so upset I came to Banos, my wife, and I said to her, I swear by the Most High, the mighty Lord, the King of all ages, one of the sons of heaven. So you must tell me the whole truth to me, no matter. You have to truthfully recount for me, no lies. Will you give birth to a son who is unique? And then Banos, my wife, started crying and pleading with me, and she said, my brother, my husband, you have to remember the time of our love, my pleasure, the heart of the moment, and my panting breath. I swear I have told you everything truthfully. So she's like, you don't remember? You don't remember when we came together? But I did not believe her. And when Banos, my wife, saw that my demeanor had changed to anger, she calmed down, and she said to me, my husband, my brother, my pleasure, I swear to you by the great Holy One, the King of Heaven, that this baby is yours. You are the father. I have not slept with any stranger, watcher, nor a son of heaven. Why do I see sadness in your eyes and you doubt on your face when I tell you the truth? Then I, Lamech, ran to Methuselah, my father, and told him and asked him to ask his father Enoch what the dream actually means. Because he know the watchers well, and God makes everything known to him. And Methuselah, my father, understood the importance of the dream, and he went to Enoch, his father, in the land of Paravan, and he called to the ends of the earth to find out the truth. And he said to Enoch, his father, my Lord, I have come to you. Do not be angry that I came here to seek you. Here's Enoch's interpretation of the dream. Do I read that too? Actually, I'm not going to read all of this. We're just going to kind of wrap it up here, but I do want to read this little account from Enoch. The flood will not complete the end. I saw written on them that generation upon generations will transgress, till a generation of righteousness arises, and transgression is destroyed, and sin disappeared from the earth, and all manner of good comes upon it. Now, my son, go and tell your son Lamech that this son, which will be born, really will be his son, and that this is no lie. And when Methuselah had heard the words of his father Enoch, for he had shown him everything in secret, he returned with the interpretation and explained to him, and called the name of the son Noah, for he will comfort the earth after all destruction. So the reason I point this out is because it's not just recorded in Enoch and Jubilees and Jasher and Genesis 6. There is no shortage of historical documentation that there was a situation where angelic beings came down, intermingled with women, and produced giants. And aside from the documents, there is just endless, countless skeletons, skulls, all of these things that have been dug up all over the world. It's not debatable that there was giants on the earth. And this, my friends, is how they got there. And anybody at this point who's trying to deny this, who's trying to make excuses for this, trying to pretend like that's not what the Bible is talking about, is just being willfully ignorant at this point. And I make no apologies about saying that. And my channel, go search giants. You could spend days just going through the content that we've covered on this show, because it used to be a serious obsession of mine, was covering that topic, especially early on. So the quality of some of those videos and stuff might not be very good because it was really early on, but nevertheless, I think you'll find it interesting. All right, at this point, I'm just rambling. I'm going to wrap it up. I hope you found today's study interesting, thought-provoking, if nothing else. Thank you for listening, my friends. Peace and grace be with all of you. And until next time, God bless.